You know, they're everywhere. They're inside your car, your watch, your bike, even your electric toothbrush. They are the hidden heroes of the mechanical world, those powerful, toothed wheels that make pretty much everything go. Yep, we're talking about gears, and today we're going to crack open the machine and see exactly how they work.
Okay, so here's the big question we're going to tackle. How can these simple spinning discs take something like you pedaling a bike and just completely transform it? How do they turn that effort into either incredible speed or just immense power? That's the puzzle.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll start with the absolute basics. Then we'll look at what happens when gears meet. After that, we'll figure out how to control which way they spin, and then we get to the really cool part, how they trade speed for power. And finally, we'll wrap it all up.
All right, first things first, let's get to know the star of our show. So what even is a gear? Well, at its heart, it's really simple. It's a wheel with teeth. But the genius is all in that design. It's those perfectly spaced teeth that let them lock together and transmit motion without ever slipping. It's flawless.
And this right here shows that fundamental relationship perfectly. The gear that gets things started, the one with the input force, we call that the driver gear. As it turns, its teeth mesh with the next gear and force it to move too. And that second gear, the output, that's called the driven gear. Simple, right? You've got your driver and you've got your driven.
Okay, so let's build on that. Because the second two gears touch, a very simple, very predictable rule comes into play. Take a look. You see how the teeth on that left gear are pushing down? Well, that means they have to force the teeth on the right gear to move up. So, if that driver gear on the left is spinning clockwise, think about it. Which way does the gear on the right have to turn? It has to go counterclockwise.
And this phenomenon has a name. It's called counter-rotation. It's a fundamental rule. Any two gears that are directly connected will always turn in opposite directions. It's just a basic law of gear physics.
But you know that whole opposite reaction thing? It can actually be a pretty big problem for engineers. What if you don't want your output spinning the opposite way of your input?
I mean, this is a really big deal in machine design. Just imagine the engine in your car is spinning one way, but you need the wheels to ultimately spin in that same direction. How do you get around that counter-rotation problem?
Well, you solve it with this clever little trick. You just stick a third gear right in between the driver and the driven gear. What happens is you reverse the rotation twice. The driver turns the middle gear the opposite way, and then that middle gear turns the final one the opposite way again, which brings it right back in sync with the original driver.
And that middle gear has a special name. It's called an idler gear. And that's pretty much its only job. It's idle because it doesn't change the speed or the power. Its whole purpose is just to flip the direction one more time, so the driver and the driven gears spin together. Okay, so we've got direction all sorted out. Now for the real magic. This is the main reason gears are so essential to, well, everything. Their ability to manipulate speed and force.
Just look at the difference here. On the left, when two gears are the same size, they turn at the same speed. It's a one-to-one relationship. But look at the right. When the driver gear is bigger than the driven gear, something amazing happens. For every single turn of that big gear, that little gear has to spin multiple times just to keep up. And this relationship, this link between the input speed and the output speed, it has a name. It's called the velocity ratio. And it's all about one thing, the number of teeth on each gear. It's the simple math that tells you exactly how much your speed is going to change.
And honestly, the formula for it is so simple, it's beautiful. You just take the number of teeth on the driver gear and divide it by the number of teeth on the driven gear. That's it. That simple division gives you the ratio. Let's make this real for a second. Imagine our big driver gear has 20 teeth, and it's turning a smaller driven gear that only has 10 teeth. So, you take 20, you divide it by 10, and you get a velocity ratio of 2. What does that mean? It means for every one time the big gear goes around, the little gear spins exactly twice. You've just doubled the speed.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a crucial trade-off. In physics, you can't get something for nothing. Gears force you to make a choice. If you set them up to increase speed, you're going to lose rotational force, which is also called torque. And if you do the opposite, say use a tiny gear to turn a huge one, you get a massive increase in torque, but you have to sacrifice speed. It's exactly like the gears on a bicycle, right? A low gear gives you tons of torque to get up a hill slowly, while a high gear lets you fly on a flat road with less effort.
All right, let's pull all of this together. Let's lock in the key ideas we've learned about these amazing little mechanical wonders.
So let's run through the 4 key rules we've uncovered.
Rule 1. Two gears touching will always spin in opposite directions. Rule 2. If you need them to spin the same way, you pop an idler gear in between them. Rule 3. To get more speed, use a big gear to turn a small one. And Rule 4. To get more force or more torque, use a small gear to turn a big one. You master those 4 ideas, and you've basically mastered the core logic of all gears.
What's really cool about this is that you've just learned the basic language of how machines move. This isn't just theory. It's like you've learned to read a secret code that's written into the world all around you. So the next time you see a complex machine, whether it's a huge construction crane or just a simple can opener, you'll be able to see past the outer shell and understand the elegant choices, the trade-offs happening inside. So, the real question is, what will you decode next?